Hello, this is Bryn Finney-Frock, and today we're going to be talking about organizational design, structure, and change, specifically for the Boeing company. So our agenda for today is to start with the underperforming dimension and major issue that Boeing is currently facing, followed by the ramifications of this issue and consequences if they don't improve. Then we're going to go through the organizational structure, design, and culture at Boeing, what it has been, what it's shifting to, and what my plans for change would be. Conscious culture impact, and if I believe they align with conscious culture principles or not. The improvement plan followed, or specifically by Cotter's eight-step change model, anticipated challenges, management strategies for specifically structure, culture, and change, and then we'll wrap it up with a conclusion. So, the major underperforming issue at Boeing has been the quality of products and services. They manufacture aircrafts and sell them to different airlines, but the 737 MAX specifically has had some issues in the past. It was grounded in 2020 after two crashes in 2018 and 2019. That caused many fatalities, and it was due to faulty sensors on the aircraft that ended up pushing the nose down and caused pilots to lose control. Recently, last year in 2024, there was an issue on Alaska Airlines with a door plug, another issue with the aircraft for quality control, and in 2025, slowed production due to the assembly quality. And then just a few days ago, unfortunately, another crash of a Boeing plane in India. This one was a 787, although the cause is still uncertain if it was an aircraft issue or not. This was reported by the Associated Press 2025. Ramifications of this underperformance in the specific category of quality products. The brand image has taken a huge hit since those crashes have occurred and issues have continued to happen. Boeing as a brand is not as trustworthy nowadays. They've lost revenue, increased costs to build their aircrafts, doing extra quality control, and then settlements with the crashes that they've had, paying families, not moving forward in lawsuits and settling. That's costed them a lot of money, and then lost market share. One of their main competitors is Airbus, and Airbus makes up about 60% now of the commercial airline manufacturing for those aircrafts, and Boeing is at about 40% when it used to be flip-flopped. So losing that market share. If they don't improve in the future, here are some consequences of that happening. So first and foremost, less safety for the passengers, employees that are using and on board these aircrafts. Poor company culture can continue and potentially get worse just with everything that's happening, which we'll get into here in a second. Loss of talent. The engineers at Boeing might choose to leave with all the issues going on, so it will be harder to retain that talent. It's not sustainable for these issues to keep happening and these ramifications to keep happening to the company. So over a long period of time, there needs to be change. And again, we've talked about it, but no longer one of the top aircraft manufacturers. They will continue to decline if they don't improve. The structure, design, and culture at Boeing. So the structure is multi-divisional. They have different divisions at Boeing. One's commercial airplanes. That's going to be the majority of what we talk about today. But they have other divisions with defense, space, global services, capital corporation. They have global operations all over the world, but they have a headquarters in the U.S. in Virginia. Leadership makes decisions, and it goes through this design of hierarchical kind of layers of management. And then they do have more of a matrix management type of system. Burns 1989 describes how this can lead to having two managers, for example, a project manager and then a department manager, where there could be cross collaboration between different departments, but employees are reporting to multiple people. And then the culture at Boeing has always been about innovation and engineering. However, they really prioritize cost cutting and financial support, performance and shareholder value as one of their top priorities, really over safety and quality, which has caused potentially some of those issues. But there's been low morale within Boeing, and that's been reported by the employees there. They're starting to shift. They want to change the culture since those crashes happened, ever since 2020 or before. They're trying to shift it to have more safety as a priority and transparency within the company. But that is still in the works. Impact on product quality specifically, that structure, it just leads to slower decision making. Um, Same with that hierarchical structure, just going through the layers of management to ultimately make a decision. If there's problems in one division, there might not be urgent changes in the other division. So communications within the divisions has been lacking, limited knowledge sharing and collaboration on solutions. So for some of these departments, issues can span across the board, but working together to actively solve that problem can be a struggle. We talked about that slowed decision making, but for matrix management specifically, there can be conflicting priorities. The project manager might want one outcome, and let's say an engineering manager wants a different outcome. Could be cost versus safety, but different priorities are being wanted depending on who is making the decisions and who the manager is. The decisions being made have included non-technical workers, so not engineers, and that has contributed to the lapse in quality control of the product, since engineers aren't involved in that decision-making process, and they are trying to change that as well. The culture has been finances over safety. We've kind of talked about that a little bit, but that is trying to change, or they are trying to change that. But that's been the fact for a little bit now. Ignored concerns. Employees have reported, fear of speaking out, retributions for what they're saying, whistleblower protections. There's been some of those concerns and processes are being ignored. There's been fallout over the increased turnover and reduced just employee engagement with everything that's been going on and all the attention that Boeing's getting. Radu of 2023 just describes how there needs to be effective communication at companies if to have that better culture affect their performance. So having a lack of ownership, expressing ideas and concerns, and agility are just consequences of not having communication within the culture. Do I believe that they align to conscious culture principles? Yes and no, however, primarily no. They do have a higher purpose at Boeing. It's to connect and protect and explore our world and beyond, and that's from the Boeing website in 2024. But execution has fallen short to promote this overall mission, specifically for protecting. Next is just the lack of conscious leadership principles from the top, from the CEOs onwards going down. But they have led with financial decisions and haven't taken a lot of accountability for actions. There's been little transparency with everything that's going on. They're now trying to shift towards safety first moving forward, but there's definitely been a lack of those conscious principles from the leadership. And then the culture at Boeing, like we've talked about, it's been a culture of compliance, not necessarily commitment. There's been low morale, fear of speaking up, little communication, little trust. So that definitely does not align with conscious capitalism and conscious culture. So they're trying to shift it to that, which is good, but it hasn't had a history of being conscious. To change, we followed Cotter's 8-step change model in these 8 specific categories. So creating urgency to start with is just reiterating that company mission and being accountable, saying, hey, we failed in this area. but this is how we're going to do better and inspire that purpose within the company. And the change needs to be urgent. Obviously, there's been crashes, and so that urgency is definitely there. Next is building a coalition. So this could be building a team of people from different departments across Boeing to oversee the changes that really just embody that commitment to excellence, that want to collaborate within the departments. So building that team would be a good start. Form of strategic vision is next. So explaining how the future will be different than the past. Through a change in culture and transparency, safety initiatives, open communication, and trust. Next is enlisting a volunteer army. So this is just getting everybody within the company on board, all the employees. So leadership would really have to detail the impact of all the work being done, why change is needed, being transparent there, looking to the future, and just wanting to establish Boeing as the top aircraft manufacturer in the world and getting those competitive juices flowing, but getting everybody within the company on board. Removing barriers so leadership can implement things to make these changes more effective to start with. So involving engineers in the decision-making process would be a great start. Having cross-department teams within the organizations to increase that communication and collaboration to speed that process of information sharing up a little bit, and then reviewing and perfecting safety testing and quality control. Um, Obviously, having that implemented to start with, these are removing some of those barriers that existed before. Next is celebrating short-term wins. So those 737 Maxes are back on the market. So celebrating just that simple fact that they are available to sell, but celebrating every, safe flight that has occurred, orders for those 737 Maxes, just celebrate those short wins and the changes that are being made within the department or in each department, celebrating those small wins and overcoming obstacles with new practices, sharing results across the board within Boeing, within the organization. Will boost morale as well. Next is sustaining acceleration. So initial mistakes would be kind of expected, but learning from them and talking about them and having that open communication. Also having a reward system in place for, calling out system errors or finding defections within the aircraft, things like that. Would be helpful. And then lastly, instituting the change. It starts from the top with leadership. Leaders will need to inspire the mission, cultivate conscious culture, and make ethical decisions regarding safety and performance and quality. Explaining how those quality products and focus on safety overall will increase long-term profitability, maybe not initially in the short term, but definitely long-term with brand loyalty and reputation. Anticipated challenge would be resistance to change. There's always going to be some employees that don't agree with certain changes, so just expecting that resistance to come. Hesitancy around fear of retaliation when speaking out. There's been a history of that. So, even with changing those policies and protocols, employees still might fear retribution by speaking up or things like that. So to or a strategy for this would be leaders just modeling behavior to the employees, admitting their own failures, talking about things that could be improved, just really focusing on that open communication aspect will trickle down hopefully to employees. Next is transitioning away from profit first mentality. That's going to affect shareholders, but within the department, we've talked about changing compensation structures, potentially awarding bonuses for safety metrics, just putting money where your mouth is in terms of safety and things like that. Lack of trust and leadership has been kind of a constant issue. There's been leadership changes from the CEO position after 2020. A new CEO took over and then resigned in 2024 with all of the fallout from the first two crashes. And now there's been a new leader, a new CEO since 2024 as well. So strategy here would just be open communication, involving others in the decision making, so that hierarchical structure could change as well. Not just the leader making the decisions, but involving engineers, involving other people to make good decisions. Subsystems that need realignment, leadership and values, changing more conscious leadership, incentives for whistleblower protections and quality and safety, employees, specifically in the engineering development, promoting engineers. Boeing would really want them to excel and perform really well. So just making sure their development is prioritized. And overall organizational design, there needs to be more accountability, clarified accountability on whose role is what, not playing the blame game and actually, saying, hey, we did wrong in this, or this could change next time, sort of thing, and implementing safety review boards. Excuse me. So, how to manage this change? For structure, just focusing on that accountability, clarifying roles, leadership changes to promote engineers and balance with financial values. So, balancing shareholder value with other stakeholders as well, not just shareholders. Culture definitely needs to change across the board. So promoting more conscious principles of employees first, psychological safety, transparency, valuing feedback, and rebuilding their trust. It will take time, but with that culture change, that can happen. And then with implementing the change, something like a feedback process involving technical workers in the decision making, having intentional trainings around, what to do when there's a problem, or going over the policies and procedures of errors and the reporting and that sort of thing. Would need to happen. Ethical and honest leadership to admit their own shortfalls. Again, not pointing fingers, not playing the blame game, but having that open communication, which FERC 2021 explains how key communication is in the change process. Explaining to employees what will improve based on these changes, and why change is needed in the first place. That will help employees get their minds around it and adopt those changes. So, in conclusion, change is necessary to improve the quality of products at Boeing and ethically necessary to improve the overall safety of those using the products for the passengers, employees, and the airlines. Leadership needs to change the culture and vision at Boeing, even if it means taking an initial financial hit. Through conscious leadership principles, transparency, organizational redesign, and culture, and building a culture of trust and open communication, that effective change can occur and keep Boeing as a reputable brand and one of the top airline manufacturers in the world. Thank you. And here are the references.